I think a good question to ask yourself is, what is that one thing I'm really scared to do? You need to do that right now. If you are really fearful of something, it is the devil trying to stop you from your greatness. And you need to do that right now.
This is BetterWealth with Caleb Guilliams. Daniela.
Hey, I'm so excited.
The day has finally come. Not only are you on the BetterWealth podcast, but you are in the studio.
I am in Denver, Colorado at the HQ, okay? I'm excited.
It is good to have you here. I'm excited to share your story. I'm excited to you said last night about my book. I need to make sure that is
Everyone knows this.
I need to make sure this is on camera for everyone to hear. Mm-hmm. We're also going to talk about how to launch a business because I've said multiple times, you are your greatest asset. Yes. Many people who want to get an upper hand as it relates to living more intentional, living a better wealth life, needs to think about a business or launching a side hustle. And
absolutely.
We're also going to talk about just why we all need to be passionate. Before we jump in, I know that you have a really powerful story in 3 minutes or less, which may be impossible. Mm-hmm. We're going to try. What is the origin story? Like, who are you? Why are you passionate? And who's made you be the person you are today?
Absolutely. Who am I? That's a big question. My name is Daniela. I was born in Cameroon. It's a country in West Africa. I'm an immigrant to the United States. I moved here when I was around 7 years old. And even that just was a huge life change moment for me because it made me realize, what is out there, right? And what I'm capable of. Unfortunately, opportunities are not as grand in my country, for women especially. So it was just such a blessing to even be able to come here. And I think even from the age of 7, I knew that I needed to be more, right? Because my father let go of everything. We were very well off in Cameroon. And we came here to be blue-collar employees, right? So it was a huge change for my father especially because he was like a really big provider, right?
Wow.
So I felt like
What did he do in the country that you guys grew up in?
So he was a director and he was in engineering. So he ran the company, electrical engineering.
And you told me yesterday that it was a lottery system.
Yes. Yeah. So Cameroon, the U.S. Embassy in Cameroon actually does a lottery for green cards for families every year. Wow. And we had one that year. And my dad was currently in England studying for his master's, and he left all of that so that we could come to the United States.
Wow.
So he really sacrificed everything for us. Wow. And I think growing up, that was always, I guess, my fear of like, I need to do well or else this was for nothing.
Yep.
Right. So I think I had a different upbringing because I cared so much about grades, learning. Like I just wanted to make sure that I was doing well. So I think that really was a blessing for me, really, because I understood the importance of investing in myself and doing more and not just doing the bare minimum. So I went to school. I ended up going to Penn State. I did finance. And that was a whole controversy because in African culture, you're either a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor if you're going to be successful. Yep. So business was like, this girl, she's not going to do well in life.
Were your parents supportive of business?
Not at first. Okay. Because honestly, they were very ignorant about how the system is here in the U.S., right? Yep. The things that are the possibilities. They were not as educated on that. So that was not a fun time for me. Yeah. But I ended up going to college. I did really well, and I had great internships. I traveled. I landed a great full-time job at a Big Four company. I did consulting. And while it was great, I made it, quote unquote, I wasn't happy. Yeah. I was like, okay, I can pay bills. I moved to Texas. That's great. But I just feel like there's more that I could be doing when it pertains to my story, things that I've seen, right? Things that I've gone through, how I can help people who are currently there. I feel like I wasn't doing that. And that's when I discovered that, wow, maybe I'm complacent right now. Yeah. Maybe I'm just accepting the fact that I went to school, I did good, I got a job, and now I'm working just to pay the bills. I felt like there was more to be done in life, right? So I started a YouTube channel. And I started just speaking to people about how, I did what I did, how I landed some internships just to help other students, get jobs and things like that. And I was really forward about my faith, right? Yep. The one thing that has gotten me where I am today is Jesus Christ. He has stood by me through all the trials, and we can't talk about all that right now, obviously, and things that I've gone through to get here. And I wanted people to know that success in corporate America does not have to just come from, working 15 hours a day it actually can come from being God's child.
Yep.
So I'll share this story. I had a director. He was really, really not the nicest person to me. He would ignore me in every meeting. He would act like I literally was not a person, right? And that was really hard for me because I was a staff. I had just started my career, first year at this company, and he literally acted like I wasn't a person.
Wow.
What did I do? I was like, okay, I'm gonna pray for this man. That was my solution. I prayed for him. Every single morning I said good morning to him and talked to him as if he was going to talk back to me, even though he didn't.
He just refused.
He just refused to talk to me.
Wow.
And
it like makes me uncomfortable just
right.
thinking about it.
Insane.
Yeah.
Like other staff members were like, "Are you okay? Like I'm so sorry this is happening to you." Like so obviously it wasn't just me noticing this, right? Yeah. I prayed for him every time he complained about his back hurting, his kids doing what. I prayed for that. And literally, I had a complete turnaround one day. One day, he got really upset at me. He told me to cancel my flights, not to go home. And I was like, I'm not doing that, right? And I told him I did my work already, and I have the right to go home.
Yeah.
And I got on the phone call. Before I did that, I went in like a little bathroom at the client, and I prayed, and I spoke in tongues. For those who don't know that, it's just praying in the spirit, right? And I was just like, this is not going to be the end of my career,
right?
And I got on the phone with him. I was so confident. I've never been so poised in my whole entire life. That was the Holy Spirit. And he literally just changed. He apologized for how he has been to me. And from that day, he has been my biggest push, biggest mentor. He got me in front of talking to the CAO at that client.
Really?
He got me an amazing salary increase, the #1 ranking at the company. Like, insane. I'm just like, you literally used to not acknowledge me.
And what did he say the shift was? Was he a believer?
He is a believer, and we did not talk about that at all.
Okay.
I don't know what the shift was for him. He just told me that he acknowledges that I have done a really great job and have been a great asset to the team, and he apologizes for how he has been treating me.
Wow.
That was it.
Are you still at that company?
I am not at that company anymore, which is the next thing that I was going to talk about. So working at Big 4 was great. I had a great experience, thanks to the Holy Spirit. And like I said, I wanted to do more, right? So I was doing YouTube videos, and even that, when I shared about that, Pray for Your Boss challenge, that infected so many people. People DM me and wrote me on email like, wow, I prayed for my boss and this happened. I prayed for this and this happened. I'm like, wow, like this is how God can impact your life if you just take him seriously, right? So I wanted more time to focus on that and help other young adults how to do more for themselves and change their situations.
Right. So
I got a new job so that I could just have a regular 9 to 5, because consulting, like, if you guys don't know, consulting is not a 9 to 5 job. It requires a lot of your time. So I got this other job that was just regular 9 to 5, so I could focus on YouTube. I could focus on, I launched a business. I started selling prayer cards to help people believe, right? Yeah. And to keep up their faith. And then I started helping people start their businesses and just really find what their passion is and monetize that.
Wow.
So that's currently what I am today, and I'm absolutely loving it.
And you're doing a lot. You have a YouTube channel that is very impressive. And you said originally you started that to kind of just encourage people. What was like the real reason you started the YouTube channel, and what did you find in starting? Because obviously making any piece of content, people are so critical. Mm-hmm. Probably especially in the field that you're in, even more critical. Mm-hmm. How did you deal with that? Because in anything, you will be criticized. And I think a lot of people fear criticism, and as a result are living a mediocre life.
Mm-hmm. The original reason why I started the YouTube channel is because I wanted to tell my story first.
Yep.
And I wanted others to know that they don't have to stay in this place where they're just doing enough.
Right.
Amen. And I expressed that. I was like, hey, I even had a video about my finances. I was like, this is what I'm making, and I'm not happy with it, right? Even though people are happy with this, I want to do more.
Right.
And so I just started being really transparent about where I was going to ignite others to do the same.
Yeah.
About the criticism factor, that is definitely something that I still faced, and I faced from the very beginning, even from people that were close to me, right?
Right. Sometimes family and our closest friends can be the worst.
Absolutely.
Because we care about what they say.
Mm-hmm.
So continue, but yeah.
Absolutely. And I think the way I overcame that was I started seeing how I was affecting people that I didn't even know, right? Because I think that family and close friends want the best for you, and they think that, you should protect yourself.
Yep.
But I think that greatness never comes from protection. It comes from you taking a risk, right? And being a little edgy. Right. Yep. So I think what kept me going was how I was affecting other people's lives and the testimonies that they were giving me.
Yep.
And it just made me want to keep going.
Yep.
And then also like the fear factors of like, fear does not come from God. Right. And I really tried to let God lead me and the Holy Spirit lead me. Right. And there were times where like I would be scared to upload a video, but I'm like, if I'm scared, if this is a fear, it's not God speaking to me.
Yep.
Right. So I just had to choose to not care, honestly. Sometimes you just have to not care.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think this is another thing to think about is a lot of times people are afraid of what the immediate consequence is going to be or what people are going to think. But what if we were afraid of not acting, of taking no action? And like what terrifies me is I'm going to die someday, or I'm going to be in a place where I will not be able to have the energy and time and maybe freedom that I have now. And I never want to look back on my life and say, Caleb, like you didn't steward your time, your money, your relationships, your potential. And that scares me. And it's like, and you know, as we go back to the Bible, it's like a healthy fear of the Lord.
Absolutely.
And so that's
Yeah, and to add to that, one thing that always gets me so excited is that little Jesus told us that we're supposed to do greater works than he did and the disciples did. And I'm just like, what am I doing that's greater works, right? The glory of God is supposed to like flow in and through me, right? And I'm supposed to be the light, you know, to this on this earth. So what am I doing that is providing light and igniting others? Right. If I'm not doing at least one thing that's doing that, I feel like I'm not living up to what God has placed in me. Like I have such a huge potential to do so much. And if I'm not even tapping to 10% of that, there's an issue. Right? So
let's talk about questions. I'm a big fan of questions. What are questions that you need to be asking yourself if you're like wanting to find something deeper, you're wanting to maybe live a more fulfilled life, or maybe like you know what you need to do but you can't articulate it, or you know that something needs to change. I think a lot of people can relate to that last piece. It's like something's got to change. I don't know what it is. I'm not an entrepreneur, but something's got to change. What questions can we start asking ourselves?
I think a good question to ask yourself is, what is that one thing I'm really scared to do? You need to do that right now. If you are really fearful of something, it is the devil trying to stop you from your greatness. And you need to do that right now. And I'll be open. Something that I was really scared to do was host an event. I was like, I have so much to share, but like talking to people live is like a lot for me, right? But as soon as I hosted that event, literally everything took off for me, right? A lot of doors unlocked for me. Amazing people. I got to have Caleb on the event, which was awesome, right? But I got to meet so many people, network with so many people that blessed me, you know, later on. So what is that one thing that you are so scared to do, or you feel like you're not good enough to do? You need to do it right now. Something I've learned is that do it scared and see what happens. Don't wait until you're confident to do it, because then it's not going to be worth it. What else would I ask myself? What am I passionate about that I have not tapped into yet? Right? Because usually like those passions that we have are put there for a reason, right? And
how do you know what you're passionate about? I'm like asking good questions because you and I are very passionate people, but sometimes we take it for granted. It's like,
so true.
How do we get passionate? So if someone was like, yes, I'm with you, this is a weird question. I don't know what to get passionate about.
I would say, ask, what is that one thing that ticks you off?
Takes you off?
Takes you off.
Makes you mad?
Makes you mad. One thing that ticks me off is when somebody wants to do something and doesn't try to reach out to find out how they can do it. They're not resourceful. And I know that I'm passionate about that because my whole purpose is to help other young adults to do more for themselves, right? So I'm going to help you find the resources to do it. So what is that one thing that really makes you so upset about people, about the world? That means you're passionate about it, because if you're upset about it, there's something fueling inside of you that's trying to get out.
It's so interesting you say that, because one thing that really sets me off is when people devalue themselves. It's like, we have one life. We've been like, we could go into a whole, not debate, a discussion around the purpose of life. And yet so many people are on the sidelines every single day. And it makes me sad. And that's I will not go on a rant on this interview.
No, you're right. And I think that's the whole point of purpose, right? When I go back, I always use this analogy of like, you know, we're made after God's image, right? And we made the Mac computer, for example, right? Whenever Mac sends out a computer, they make sure that it has the manual, they make sure that it is tested, it is proven to work, everything. Like Mac has other computers that they have never pushed out because it's not perfect.
Right.
So the computer that you have bought from Apple, they make sure that it is perfect and it works perfectly, right? And we're made after God's image. So the way that you were sent here, you are packaged perfectly. Every single potential that you're supposed to reach is inside of you right now. You don't need a new computer. You don't need a new camera, a new keyboard. Yep. Everything that you are supposed to do is literally packaged perfectly inside of you with a manual, right? And so when we're only tapping into that, like, oh, press the space bar, and you're never tapping into the undo button. The undo button is really powerful, right?
Control Z, let's go.
If you never tap into that in your life, imagine how much you're missing out on.
Yeah.
So, devaluing yourself is huge to me. It's just like, we serve a big God, and He made you. Like, I don't,
Yeah. Well, what is your message to people that are not believers? Or do you just, is your whole company for Christians?
Not necessarily. My whole company is anybody who wants to do more for themselves. Something about me is that I'm never going to hide who I am.
Yep.
I'm never going to stop and not tell you how I came here, because it is not, it wasn't just me, right? So, and I've had people who didn't believe or are like, wow, like, you are so excited about this, and this is something that is truly genuine. I want to be part of that, right? So anyone who wants more for themselves, but I will say that when you want more for yourself, it's really hard not to find that outside of Christ, right? Because you discover that you are literally perfectly made only in Christ. And the world will always tell you that you're not good enough, that you have to change this, and that, which might be true. There's growth, right? But it starts from a place of knowing that you are perfect and you have grown. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Like believing before you get there.
The road with something, if you can't find fulfillment and purpose in something other than success or money or just comparing to others, like it is a lonely road. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have a lot of money that are miserable.
Yeah, that are unhappy.
That are super unhappy because they're not fulfilled, because their money and fame and significance will never truly make them happy. Yeah.
And to add to that, like, this road of wanting more for yourself and doing more is not always going to be easy.
No.
You're going to get to a place where, like, you might be really passionate, but you just don't feel like it, right? And those are the times where you need something else to push you.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean by, like, I could not have done this without God, because there are those times where I just don't care. Like, people don't want to change their lives, and I'm like, all right, go ahead. Don't change your life, right? Yeah. But then there has to be a point where I'm like, oh, like, the Holy Spirit's here with me, and He pushes me to have that softer heart to care and to try harder for them, right?
Do you ever feel like you want it more than people want it for themselves?
Yes.
All the time?
All the freaking time. And but it's worth it when they get to that place where they are changed. Like, it's like the most beautiful thing, and that keeps me going.
Yep. Let's talk about launching a business.
Yeah.
And this could be a personal brand. This could be a side gig. This could be a full-time hustle. I think I want to point something out, because there's a lot of people that are coming to our company. They want to be an entrepreneur because that's what they're reading in the books to do. But they're like, they want to quit their job, make no money, start something that statistically won't work. And what I want to say is I love the entrepreneurial minded person, but let's do it the wise way. I want to point out that you are very open about, listen, like, you have a job right now. That should be highlighted, and that is like very, very, like, I commend that, and the humility of you not even hiding that, because you're able to be a better coach because you don't need the money through your business. Exactly. It's just that, and that's really, really important. And I just, again, want to highlight that when someone is launching a business, whether it's a side hustle, whether it's full-time, what is the steps? Because your business is helping people either through your course or coaching one-on-one launch their business. How have you seen that? And let's get some free value, I would say, for the BetterWealth Nation.
Yes, let's do it. The first step I advise everyone to do is to find your why.
Okay.
Right? And the way you do that is, if you don't know what you're passionate about, like, you can start with what we talked about earlier. Ask yourself, what ticks you off? What are you passionate about? But if you still don't know, you ask yourself, why am I here? Right? Maybe, like, do you currently have a job? Why do I do this job? What do I like about this job? What about my environment do I enjoy the most? And you keep asking yourself why questions. And usually your why stems from something in your past, something that you've been through. Maybe if you've gone through a sickness or something, like something that really rocked your world, your why is usually something around that, right? And I think the next step from there is to say, how can I serve others with what I've been through or the knowledge that I know? right? That can come from as simple as just writing a book or telling your story in a YouTube video. Like, your side hustle or business doesn't have to start as this whole company with subsidiaries and all these things. Like, you just start with one thing that you're really passionate about and watch what happens.
Yep.
So for me, I wanted to stop complacencies, and I wanted to help others recognize that they didn't have to just work a job and be happy with it. So I started posting YouTube videos, right? And I just posted a video. Then I posted 2 more, 3 more. And then I found out what I could do because of the reaction I got from it.
Yep.
People wanted to do something, but they didn't have the resources. People wanted to do something, but they didn't know how to do it. So that's how I got to starting a business. I didn't like start out my business by teaching how to start a business. First of all, I started my own business before I did that, right?
Yep.
And then I recognized what people are struggling with and, figured out how I could help them. So I would just say start with something that seems really viable, like possible for you, right?
Right.
And build from there.
Is it, so I'm going to maybe color in what you're saying. I 100% agree with find your why. Really, really, what is that thing that will wake you up when you don't feel like waking up?
Exactly.
Number 2, I'm more leaning into like start highlighting and looking for areas that you can create value. Another way to say that is solve someone's problem.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, for some reason, this is coming to my mind. If you have kids at home, start teaching them and raise them up to start looking for value creation. Start pointing that out. Like,
so good.
This store sells things and as a result gets money because people value the things in the store.
Yes.
You're creating a service. So what you saw
solving
is
a problem.
You're reading YouTube comments when people are reaching out. You're reading where there's a disconnect. And you started a business. You're bettering their life and they're giving you money because you're bettering their life.
Because there's value. There has to be a transfer of value. Like, I'm giving you something and you're giving me something back, and it's fair. Because like, they're literally, like you said, there's a gap between where you need to go, what you want to do, and where you need to go. And I'm that gap, right? What was I going to say? And I think something else about that is like finding your niche.
Yep.
It's so important to serve in the beginning, to know who you serve and what problem specifically that you solve. For example, if you're looking for a red rose, right? And you have an option to go whether to Walmart or to go to a rose shop. Where are you going to go? Yeah. You're going to go to a rose shop.
Unless I'm on a really, really tight budget. But yeah, true. Yes, I'm going to the rose shop. Yeah.
Right. And that's because if you are talking to everybody,
right,
you are talking to nobody. And I tell that to all of my clients. I'm like, I want to help people do this. And I'm like, people is a lot of people, right?
Yep.
And so when they scroll through your website or your Instagram page or whatever else it may be, if you just serve everyone, there is no emotional connection. Right. So whenever I talk, I say young adults because I want to serve young adults, right? And of course, I do get people who are not young adults to come and work with me. But that is my, my reach. Like, I want to serve those people because I know how they feel, where they're at, what their problems are. And there can be an emotional connection between me and that other young adult.
Right.
So who is that person that can really relate to you, right? And make sure you continue to serve them.
So have a why.
Find a niche.
Mm-hmm. Find a problem that you can solve. Yeah. What else needs to happen to launch a successful business?
I think the next thing is after you find the problem you need to solve, you have the people that you want to solve. Where do you find them, right? Find out where are they hanging out. Are they on YouTube? Are they on Instagram? Are they at meetups? Maybe we don't do that as much these days, right? But are they at Walmart? Like, there can be physical locations as well, but just do your research on where these people hanging out. And if you can find them in groups, it's awesome. Like, you can find a Facebook group of people that you want to solve. You can literally go in that Facebook group, not sell your product, but be a giver. The give first model is so powerful. If you constantly find yourself being that person, that go-to person that people go to, they are going to want to give you money. Trust me. Right? So be that expert in that Facebook group or that environment, that meetup, wherever that you are. Be that expert in that problem that you want to solve and let them call you the go-to person for this thing.
So in other words, I love that we're having this conversation, is if you know who you want to serve and you know what problem you can solve, what podcasts are they listening to, what Facebook groups are they in, what things are they, like, where are they hanging out, go to those places and add value. Be a giver. One of my favorite books is The Go-Giver. It's like give. And obviously there's a system to it. You don't want to be like the starved baker that's just like giving out all their food and then starving to death, right? But there's a way of like giving without expectation. Yes. But people, like, we just live in a world where if you give to me, like, I want to look out for you. And so then I'm going to ask you, like, what do you do?
How can I help you?
And it's like, it's a really amazing thing. From there, you're giving, people are interested. What are the next steps or mistakes that people make after they get a demand?
I think the next mistake that people make is not like honing down on what your pitch is, right?
Yeah.
A pitch is really important. In a pitch, I mean by like having a way that you can explain to someone in like a sentence or two about who you are, what you do, who you do it for, and how you do it. Those are the 4 questions. Who you are, what do you do, who do you do it for, and how do you do it? So that person has the opportunity to either work with you or get your product or whatever it may be, or refer you. I think that we do not put enough value on referring. If you can just get 5 people to refer you to their friends, that is really powerful. It's more powerful than getting 5 people to just buy your product. So don't be so stressed on people buying your service or buying your product, but spend more of your time asking them to refer you, or, hey, if you know about anybody that has this issue, like, let them know about me, right? Because you don't know how many people that person can reach by just talking to them about what you do, right? And that's answering those 4 questions.
It's powerful.
And what I mean by a pitch as well is like when you're explaining how you do it, then you can get into detail about what this product is or what this service is that you provide to solve what problem, right? And don't say the price right away. Let them ask you, like, hey, what is that about? How do you do that? How can I get involved in that, right? And start a conversation before you ask for money. You want to get them to a place where they are excited about what you do, they want to know more, and they want to know how they can get involved, right? That's why I think the mistakes would be is like somebody just wants to ask money. This is what I do. Here's my website, without starting a conversation and making a real connection.
What I love about what you're doing and how you're communicating is a lot of people are tactic driven, and so they're going to say, hey, before you start a business, you need to get an LLC and start a website and all these things. And that's not bad. Like obviously you need to figure out a way to collect payments.
Eventually, yeah.
You got to make sure that you're not breaking any copyright law. But at the end of the day, it does not matter until you have people that are coming to you. And now obviously we're talking about, a service type business, but even if you're selling a product, you have to make sure that people want to buy that product.
Exactly.
Don't just don't just launch a product and be like, why isn't anyone, buying my widget? So I love this. I'm anything that you want to say before we transfer to the money conversation?
Yeah, I would just say that like in this process of talking to people, that's when you're testing out your product, you're testing out your service. So what you could do is like offer it for free for a review, right? Reviews are so powerful because when people look at your product or your service, they want to know who else has experienced it, and they want to know how what their thoughts are. So it's okay to like offer the product or service for free, maybe for the first 5-10 people, whatever you're comfortable with, but just get some reviews so that people can have something to reference whenever they walk into you cold, right? I think that's really big. And then after that, after you have like reviews, then you're good. Like, you know that it works, right? People have liked it, you've tested the product, and now you can really launch, right? So that's my recommendation.
So Penn State finance major.
Yeah.
You've had some epiphanies about money since then.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about your money journey. Let's talk about, how we got connected.
Okay, absolutely. I will say college is great, but I did finance, and I feel like the things that I know about finance now is not because of my finance degree, unfortunately. So that comes from that place of like, I want it more for myself. So I was researching a lot about how I can save better, spend better, and make sure that the money that I'm making is doing something for my future, right? So that's how come I started researching about insurance and actually became an insurance agent. And I wanted to know how an insurance policy can help me save and spend my money better. And that's how I ran into this guy. So he had, as you guys know, he has amazing YouTube videos. If you're not on YouTube watching BetterWealth, what are you doing? You need to be watching all of his videos, like straight fire. And I started binge watching your videos. I was just like, wow, this is great content. And like prior to this, I had found other people and other videos that unfortunately did not serve me the way I wish they would, right? So when I read into his channel, I was just like, this is exactly what I needed. Like someone understands purpose and how to spend your money according to your purpose. Not just trying to chase money or like double money, but like what is the reason that you're doing that?
Right.
And that's the one thing that I noticed about you is that you care about purpose. that was just really big for me. So I wanted to understand like how I can build my insurance policy in a way that it's going to help me save and spend better. So I like literally like stalked this guy. I got on his website, scheduled a meeting with them. And prior to this, I had like emailed him because I didn't know that he had a website. I just wanted to get in contact with him. Okay.
Yeah.
I like DM'd him. Something about life, you guys, just keep persistent. Like just
it
stay
works.
consistent. It works.
It works.
Okay. Like if you want to get somewhere, keep knocking on that door.
Yep.
It will be answered onto you. And it was.
Yep.
So we got on a call. I met Don, which was one of the amazing team members, and Caleb just popped on the call, and that's how we connected. Yep. And it was amazing.
And you shared your story. Mm-hmm. And one thing I will say is if you want to get a hold of people, just share why. Just share your why. Exactly. Share your why and why you want to meet with that person. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing what will happen.
Mm-hmm. And it was. Like I feel like we had an instant connection on that call. Like you understood where I was at. I was so frustrated with like, I've been in the insurance industry. I don't want to work with any of these agencies because like they're not doing good things. Right. And you understood where I was coming from. Yep. And that was amazing.
You said something last night to me about the NAsset book that just like almost made me fell out of my seat.
Okay, so after I met with Caleb, I was like, I gotta get this book. So I got the book. You guys, I was not a reader. Okay, I literally read bare minimum in college. I did not like to read. I read this book in 2 days, which is like a lot for me. Okay, I could not put it down. And since I read his book, I have become a reader. Like the NAsset has made me a reader because that book is literally that good. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. This is coming from an anti-reader in the past, okay? This book literally kept me hooked because it taught me about, first of all, me and how I can utilize my assets to better my future. That was just wild. Like it's a short book, but you hit on such like potent topics. And there were so many moments that I was just like reading your book. Wow, well, it was amazing.
If you saw me paying her under the table, just we'll cut that out. No, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I'm telling you, as a creator, as someone that's like out there wanting to make a difference, hearing you say that makes me like there's like so much fulfillment and like passion because I know that reading is a habit that successful people do. Mm-hmm.
And I was not doing that. Let's just be honest, right? And I have to be honest, I stepped into my journey of success when I started reading, like honestly. Because it's cool. Like there's just so much that you can learn from reading. Yeah. It was
any like money overarching principle that has served you well that you want to just transfer to the BetterWealth audience?
Yes. One thing is money now is better than money tomorrow. Like you talked about like the importance of compound, right? Compound interest. Anytime you can get money now and save it now and invest it now, it's way better than waiting 10 years to do that later. Because we don't at first hand understand the power of just being able to invest now, even if it's a small amount of money, rather than having a lot of money in 10 years. I think that's a big takeaway that I had.
Yeah, I think compounding happens more than just money. It happens potential. It happens with relationships. It happens with consistency of just making content and being a creator. Mm-hmm. And so, the compound effect is powerful. Mm-hmm. And what happens when you start saving money is it's more than just the physical, your money's compounding. It's like you are becoming literally wealthier, which you start highlighting different opportunities, especially if you go the path that we highly recommend. You're going to have a lot of control over your capital, which will give you the ability to make moves.
Yeah, and even to for that point, like even when it comes starting a business, like people say, "Oh, I want to wait until I'm 30 or 45 or whatever to start a business because I'll be smarter, I'll be more experienced." But even that is like lost time, right?
Yep,
because
totally.
Being an entrepreneur, you learn so much, and you're gonna have to make mistakes, right? Yep. So if you wait until that point where you feel like you're experienced, there are going to be problems that you had no idea about that now you have to waste time figuring out in order to get to that place where you are confident and you are doing well. Yep. So I feel like this idea of compounding just literally goes with anything that you do. It's better to start now. If you want to do it, it's okay to start now. Figure it out as you go. Yeah.
I love it.
I love it.
Anything else that you want to share before we go into the legacy question?
Ooh, I feel like the legacy question is what I would want to share. But what I will go back on is one thing is that if you have that one thing that you are worried about doing, scared about doing, I want you to like challenge yourself to do it right now. And the second thing is integrity. This is something I learned about this year. Stop lying to yourself. This is so huge. Like you're not going to be ever going to be able to be in integrity if you keep telling yourself you're going to do something and you don't do it. It starts with yourself. And I was under the impression that if I, serve others, I'm always there for others, it's good. And I lie to myself. I'm not there for myself. That's fine because I'm being selfless. I'm being a good Christian. No, you need to serve yourself first, and people will see how you serve yourself and want to be part of your journey because they see how much integrity and trust that you have for yourself. And it builds so much confidence. So I would leave that.
Yeah, I'll mention one thing before we go into the legacy question. Is a lot of Christians will come to me and be like, no, I don't want to do business and be wealthy or whatever because it's just not something I want to do. And by the way, like everyone has different convictions, so take this all with a grain of salt. Yeah. This is what I would say is we are commanded to be light. We're commanded to be the salt. Not that people will say, oh, I'm looking at your light and I want to be you. No, look at the greater source kind of deal. Yeah. It's like I'm attracted to the life that you're living, the success that you're having, and you're pointing me to not that, but something higher. Okay?
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that it's like, let's live an attractive life. And you cannot lie to yourself. And so that's just one of the things that I've noticed is the people that I've really respected are like brutally honest with themselves, and they hold themselves to a standard that's attractive. And as a result, I've followed in their footsteps, and it's just one of those things to think about because a lot of times we look on outward things, but like, what is the conversation happening in your brain? What is the conversation that you're telling yourself? And that conversation, it's amazing how that translates.
And to your point, like it doesn't have to be starting a business, right?
Exactly.
That thing that lights you up doesn't have to be in business. It can be something that you do for children across the world. It could be a nonprofit. It could be a movement. It could be, sharing your story. So it doesn't have to be this huge thing. But what it does have to do is fulfill that passion that is burning inside of you. And it has to constantly be hitting those fears that you have. So that's a good point.
Every parent is an entrepreneur. If you can get liberal with the word entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, it's
raising children.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing.
Absolutely.
All right, legacy question. This is your last day on earth. You're with the people that you love the most. You can't give them any YouTube videos that you've ever created. You can't give them anything that you've really created. You just have this one last conversation. What are you going to make sure to share in this last conversation?
I am going to make sure that they know that I'm going to ask a question. Are you living full out? Like, are you doing everything that you can do to serve your world, right? And to reach your potential. And I would also hit on a point that it comes from tapping into the greater source. It comes from knowing Jesus Christ is your one and only Savior. Because once you do that, you're awakened to such a bigger world. And it allows you to live full out. It allows you to recognize that, these things that irritate you or like, fight that you have with people are actually not that serious and they're not going to affect your rest of your life, right? So I would just really ask, are you living full out and are you doing the things that scare you so that you can see a bigger you tomorrow? That's what I would say.
That's really powerful.
Super simple. Yeah.
How can people stay connected with you? How can they email you their one thing? What they need to be doing, what they're afraid of.
Yes. You guys see me here. I'm like really silly I'm not like that silly, but I'm actually very, very silly on Instagram. So if you want to know more about my personality, you can follow me on Instagram, Daniela Ngounou, and you can DM me. Tell me you came from the BetterWealth podcast. I will absolutely DM you back. I literally talk to all of my clients in my DMs. So I'd love to connect with you on there. And then also I have a YouTube channel, Daniela Ngounou as well, where I post about what I talked about today, my journey, and also how I help others, stop complacency in their life. So I would absolutely love to connect with you, and I'm excited to get to know you.
Connect with her on Instagram, YouTube. Make sure to reach out to her. Make sure that you told her that you listen, maybe discovered this ball of energy on the BetterWealth show.
Get ready, though, because I'm like calm right now.
Yeah, no,
I'm not usually this calm.
Listen, thank you. There's so many things that I want to say, but I really appreciate how you show up, the passion that you really live, the message that you have, and that you're really bold about your faith. I'm very, very clear that BetterWealth is a company, and we're talking about intentionality, and we're going to serve everybody. But that has as a Christian myself, like I get really fired up about like, why do I want people to live intentionally? And so I really, really appreciate the people that make their faith really the center of what they're doing. And I'm just really grateful and a better human being because you're in my life. So thank you.
Oh, praise the Lord. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank you. Like, wow, you are really a stand-up guy. I don't know how else to say it, right? Like you are so intentional and genuine about what you do, who you serve, and like how you do it. It's just so amazing to be part of this journey, and I'm really thankful that I could be here at the BetterWealth. Yeah. What? Like I'm at the HQ, y'all. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me calm down. But I'm just so excited to be here. I'm excited to be part of your journey, and I know that you're gonna do so much more. So y'all, people are listening right now, you're lucky to know Caleb right now because this man is about to blow up. Just get ready, all right? Just get ready. But yeah, thank you for allowing me to be part of your process, and thank you for serving God the way you do.
Thank you so much for listening to the BetterWealth podcast. It would mean the world to me if you could hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this with the people that you know and love.